Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with a very much so highly anticipated model to check out here on the channel. And you can very clearly see what we are looking at straight out of the gate. It states the Meg, and we have ourselves the W Dragon Megalodon. And I really want to see how much I love the packaging for this one, because very clearly they've gone ahead and created like their own tribute to Jaws with the packaging that we have here, and that is awesome. And honestly looks so close to, you know, what you would see on like a Jaws poster or, you know, something relating to the film. This is pretty much replicating it in perfect fashion, but with the Megalodon, of course, instead. And the artwork is honestly incredible on this. Like, I don't keep the boxes of too many figures, but I think there's a pretty good chance I'm going to keep the box here of this Megalodon. But as we move the box around, you can see here on the side that it has, again, the Meg, and then another image down here of the Megalodon. And then, as we turn it again, you basically have almost the same thing on the opposing side, as I smack the camera, but almost the same thing on the opposing side, except now it's like a side view of the Megalodon. So, again, super cool. Either way you look at it, it is an absolutely epic-looking box filled with fantastic, very much so Jaws-inspired box art. And then again, when you turn it around to the final side, you again have the Meg, and again, a really cool image there. So, really excited to pop this open, and I'm going to do that right now because, again, I've been waiting a little while for this one to get here, so I think the anticipation nearly killed me waiting that long. So let's get this box open and check it out. And there it is in all of its glory, and I must say, straight out of the packaging, this is far and away one of the single most impressive Megalodon models that I have ever seen. Like, I was really impressed with the recent iToy version that had come out because it was so big. You know, somehow there was a Megalodon model out there that was larger than the vinyl PNSO version. But this one, honestly, is the single best Megalodon that I can recall from any company. The sculpt on this looks gorgeous, and the paint job on this as well is fantastic. They put, as you can see, you know, a lot of slight variation of color into this, and tons of really nice little fine details throughout the course of the figure from what I can see so far. Of course, the only way to truly tell just how gorgeous this is with a closer look, so let's jump to it right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Megalodon, you can see, again, the realism of this is off the charts, as well as just how impressive the fine detail is. There is so much going on when it comes to really slight kind of cracks and crevices and slight like bends and folds. When it comes to the skin, there's just a mountain of detail included on this. W Dragon really went all out with this release, and honestly, it might be one of my favorite releases that I've seen from them so far. You have very nice paintwork as well. As you can see, we start out with some darker tones up here on the top and transition incredibly smoothly down along the side to the lighter tone. But what's cool is on top of these kind of like dark grays, I actually can see dark grays and slight tints of brown up here. So there's definitely some variation of color, very realistic variation of color as well. But as you move down here along the side, one thing that I wasn't expecting were these greenish tones that we have on the model. And you can see that as you move through, there is a really cool, like very light greenish tone that shows up, and it's insanely smooth when it comes to the way that it's applied to the model, and again transitions very nicely naturally to the lighter tone of the underbelly of our Megalodon. As we move up here into the mouth, you can see the mouth is sculpted in an open position. We've got some pinkish tones there kind of following along the mouth, as well as a few out here, kind of like some scratches and stuff that you can see here moving along the jawline, basically around the mouth, but you could see a few more down here on the underside here of the lower jaw. That's one thing that's really cool. And of course, you know, one area I would definitely expect to see injuries and things like this on a shark, especially of this size, So it's really cool that they applied those on this figure. But you can see, again, the paintwork is absolutely fantastic. So perfect and precise throughout. Like, just look at the teeth. All of the teeth sculpted out beautifully, but also all painted beautifully. And you can see that as you move here through the course of the upper jaw. You can also get a good look at the inside here of the mouth and the detailing we've got going on in there, as well as the paintwork. Again, you can see various tones of colors with like purples and potentially pinks, as well as some reddish tones, like some, maybe like a reddish wash that's been applied. It's a little hard to really get in there, but I think you can kind of see in there a little bit, whatever the light's allowing you to see. But it looks really good, and you can see how far back it actually goes. Like, that actually goes back much further than you would normally see on most shark models, so that's really cool. And if we look at the lower jaw, you can see the teeth again down there as well. We'll go ahead and angle it a little bit better so it's not quite so awkward, but you can see the teeth all again sculpted. There's so many teeth, and they're all sculpted perfectly, and again painted perfectly. They did such a great job on the paintwork of this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the opposing side here, and you can see again just zero sloppiness. W Dragon really taking a lot of care in this Megalodon for sure. You can get a good look at the inside of the mouth again from this angle as well. Again, what the light will allow us to see. But it looks absolutely phenomenal. We can also see the nostrils sculpted out. They are highlighted with a darker tone. The eyes as well, sculpted quite beautifully, painted with a nice glossy black. And you can see that it has a nice gloss coat to it, looking genuinely alive. As you move up here to the top of the head, you can see that this shark is absolutely loaded with scars up here. And they've painted them out to replicate scars, again, with like lighter tones. You can obviously see more recent injuries and stuff down here that still have a little bit of like a pinkish tone to them and stuff, but up here you can obviously see that these are older injuries, older scars. And you can see, if we turn it back around, more of those over here. You can see a nice one right there above the eye area and stuff like that. So super impressive, again, when it comes to every aspect, even including realism. Little tiny things like this always impress me, and I love the fact that they've got so much of that, especially up here in the face. And as you move back, you can see some really nice subtle areas of paintwork again that have been airbrushed on. As we continue to move back, you've got the gills sculpted out really beautifully. Again, you can even see some slight pinkish tones showing up around the gills. There's actually also a really subtle kind of like a pattern, like a spotting, that you can see moving through most of the figure, which is really cool. You can see it pretty much all over the place. I really like that little subtle addition as well. As we continue to move along, the skin texture continues to look absolutely awesome on this. Again, very impressive fine detail on something like this. As you move up into the dorsal fin, you can see again we've got like darker tones moving along the outer edges of the dorsal fin, lighter tones within the inside of the dorsal fin. You can also see again some slits and stuff up here. Again, just some minor injuries that have occurred to this shark at some point in time. Moving back down here into the fin, you can again see all sorts of really nice detail, even a dark wash that's been really nicely applied to this area of the fin. You can see again kind of the same paintwork that we saw up there in the dorsal fin, as we have like darker tones moving around the outer edges of the fin, and then again lighter tones within. You can even see some slight hints of like brownish tones in there as well. Very, very nice paintwork. And as we move back here, you can also see a really subtle kind of like a striping effect that moves back through the course of the side of the shark. As we continue to move along, you still see the darker tone basically following along the center, but from this point right here, you can really see those greenish tones showing up on the outer sides of the shark. You've got another fin right here, which looks really good. Same deal down here. And again, even variation of color to those fins down there on the bottom of the shark. And then we move out here into the tail fin. You've got a few more slits out there at the end of the shark here, at the end of the tail. You can also see again that same sort of paintwork where we have the darker tone following along the outer edge of the fin here, but you can also see the lighter tones within, and even more, again, slight variation of color that's been applied very clearly with an airbrush and really smoothly applied. There's just so much paintwork on this, honestly. It's absolutely amazing. And as you move back here along the underside, you can see all of the detail you would expect to see for a shark. I like that even here they have the cloaca sculpted out on this, but they've applied a little bit of like a pinkish tone in that area as well. You can see more of that as you move up here into the chest, and then as you lead out into the undersides of the fins, you can see more pinkish tones, more light tones here on the underside, as well as some of the dark tones basically applied to the tips of the fins. And then if we turn it around, you're going to see pretty much the same thing, of course, over here as what we had just seen on the initial side. So there's not really going to be a whole lot to go over, but as you can see, it is so drop dead gorgeous. It is absolutely ridiculous. This is far and away the best Megalodon that I have in my collection. W Dragon really knocked this one out of the park in a big way. And then we've also got the base, and you can see the base is basically just like the ocean floor. It's sculpted really nicely. Good bit of variation of color applied to this as well. And they've also given it kind of like a bluish tint because, of course, it's going to replicate the look of it being underwater. I like that, idea as well. And I think the fine detail overall looks really nice. Everything seems to be very nicely done. And then in the center, you have a nice big black box. It actually has a really soft top to it, so it doesn't damage the underside of the model. But that will help once you put the model on here for it to stay nice and stable. But the black will make it look like that area is not really there and the shark's just kind of swimming through. But it is a really nice looking base. And then on the underside, you can see, again, Stratum Records and W Dragon. And then, of course, the fact that this is 1/35th scale, made of PVC, and it is a Megalodon. So, again, just a really nice, very high quality underside to the base as well. Another thing that's really nice about this model is the fact that the underside of the shark and the base have a magnet. So once you put the shark on the base, it helps to keep the shark stable with the usage of the magnet. That was one of the things that now over time I've learned about the iToy version that I'm not a big fan of. I didn't realize it, when I was doing the review, how aggravating it would be. But over time, I've really come to realize that the lack of a magnet or any real way to hold that shark on its base is frustrating. So it's nice to see that the W Dragon version here has basically gone ahead and covered all their bases with this, and they've given you a magnet to help hold it on there, making it a lot more stable. But as far as a size goes, we'll go ahead and pull this up a little bit. It is definitely quite sizable. For a length from the snout to the tail, about 18.5 inches or 47 centimeters. And then for a height, while it's on the base, just a little under 8 inches or right around 20 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A human being next to our W Dragon Megalodon. And you can see the Megalodon's pretty darn big. It definitely has a very impressive size to it, very clearly outsizing everything that we see here next to it. Then for another comparison, we have the Papo Megalodon, which very clearly is no competition whatsoever for the W Dragon version. And the same can absolutely be said for the How Long Good version that came out fairly recently. Again, tiny in comparison to the W Dragon version. Now, when we bring in the Collect A version, we very clearly are getting at least a little bit closer in size to the W Dragon version, though still nowhere near it. Then if we bring in the large vinyl version from PNSO, you can still see that the W Dragon version absolutely destroys even that version as far as a size goes of the Megalodon, which is extremely impressive. And then also when it comes to PNSO, they also have this smaller version out, which still, again, no competition for the W Dragon version. Now here is where we would have our biggest competition, and that would be with the iToy version of the Megalodon, which honestly is gorgeous as well. It is really one of the best Megalodon models out there, but I would say that the W Dragon version knocks that one off its pedestal. I would say overall, the W Dragon version is the best Megalodon that I can think of on the market today, and you can also see it is actually a little bit bigger than the iToy version, which is crazy because I did not expect any Megalodon to, be larger than that one. But the W Dragon version definitely takes the cake as being the best Megalodon on the market today, in my opinion. So this brand new W Dragon Megalodon is absolutely fantastic and maybe their best release yet, which is, a pretty big thing to say. I don't know for sure if it's their best release yet, but I think there's a very good chance that it could be, just based on how incredible this looks and how overall realistic I think it looks. The sculpt is incredibly impressive, and that's honestly putting it mildly. It sports every ounce of detail that you would want to or expect to see, and probably even then some. It's Easily one of the most impressive sculpts I've ever seen on a shark in my entire life. The pose is nothing really amazing. It's basically just swimming along with the mouth open the way it is. It kind of makes it look like it's coming in with some significant speed to grab something in front of it. That's just my take on it. But I really like the pose. I think, again, it doesn't need to be anything overly flashy or dramatic, and sometimes trying to create poses like that can put a model off for me. It can not necessarily ruin it, but just lower my appeal for it, whereas this one has, basically simplicity, and sometimes simple can be best, and I think that the pose is nicely done, again, because it doesn't always need to be flashy. The paint on this as well is unbelievably well done. There's so much very slight variation of color. I love the scars and stuff in the face and running along the jawline. They're nicely painted as well. I love that they've differentiated the old scars from the newer injuries. That was also a really nice touch. And the paintwork on the inside of the mouth, again, it's so perfect and precise. The base is really nicely done as well. Again, very nicely sculpted, nicely painted, good bit of variation of color included there as well. And the fact that we have a magnet in the base to keep the shark nice and stable is honestly the icing on the cake for this one. So without a doubt, this is a massive recommendation from me. And if you were to come to me and say, which Megalodon model in a sea of Megalodon models should you buy? Definitely this one. Absolutely pick up this Megalodon. And if you are interested in doing that, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that. I'll actually include a few links. I'm going to include a link to somebody that I purchased this from on eBay who did do a great job and actually got this to me even with having some struggles shipping it. It took a little longer than it should have, but they got it to me pretty in a decent amount of time. But I'm also going to include a link to Sugo Toys, which might be one of the cheapest options. It's just that it's still a pre-order. They haven't acquired it quite yet, so it'll be a little bit before you do get it, but I really recommend Sugo Toys. They're a great website. But one way or another, definitely pick this up and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.